Thanks for staying with us. Time now for African News with me, George Calvin-Smith. Tonight, day 2 of the murder trial of South African track star Oscar Pistorius gets off to a rocky start after local media rubs the judge up the wrong way. Meanwhile, the defence insists the screams one witness says she heard were those of the defendant, not the victim, Pistorius' girlfriend, Steenkamp. Also, Hamas slams an Egyptian court's decision to ban the Palestinian group on its territory as politically motivated. The group seen as a threat to Cairo's anti-Islamist authorities. This as military chief ABDEL AL-SISI strongly hints that he'll be running for the top job in upcoming presidential polls. And education. We head to Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, where efforts are being made to get girls back into school to prepare them to play central roles in the country's future. First up, South African track star Oscar Pistorius broke out in tears on Tuesday during the second day of his murder trial. Known as Blade Runner, he held his head in his hands as details of the shooting of his girlfriend last year were read out in court. Pistorius pled not guilty to charges, which, if proved, could land one of South Africa's most well-known Olympians in jail for life.
Day 2 of the murder trial of South Africa's star Olympian. Inside, a serious privacy breach threatened to derail proceedings. Court was briefly suspended after a local broadcaster aired pictures of the state's witness, Pistorius' neighbour, during live testimony. Before reconvening, the judge issued the media a stern warning.
I am warning the media, if you do not behave, you are not going to be treated with soft gloves by this court.
On Monday, Oscar Pistorius faced the court and pled not guilty to murder, over a year after admitting killing his then-girlfriend, Steenkamp.
Not guilty, my lady.
The man known as Blade Runner says he accidentally shot the former model on the night of Valentine's Day 2013 after mistaking her for an intruder. The state's first witness, Pistorius' neighbour, described how she was woken up around 3 in the morning by what she called terrible screams.
Just after her screams, my lady, I heard 4 shots. It was 4 gunshots that I heard. The time between the first and the 4th shot was much longer than between the second and the 3rd one.
Prosecutors are expected to use witness testimony to show that the couple had a heated argument on the night of the shooting. That would contradict Pistorius' version of events. Questions also surround the Paralympian's actions after the incident. Rather than calling the police, the double amputee admitted to calling a private medical service and a representative of his gated community. If Pistorius is convicted of culpable homicide, unintentionally killing his girlfriend, he could walk away with a suspended sentence. If found guilty of murder, he could face 25 years or more behind bars.
Hamas has been banned from operating in Egypt. The Egyptian court ruling stopped short of branding the Palestinian group a terrorist organisation, as requested by lawyers who filed the case, but Hamas's offices have been ordered to be closed. The movement is the Palestinian branch of Egypt's Muslim Brotherhood and has come under fire since the toppling of Islamist President Mohammed Morsi last summer. Meanwhile, the popular military chief behind Morsi's ouster has given the strongest hints yet that he intends to run for president.
For some Egyptians, he's the strong leader the country needs to overcome its ongoing instability. For others, he's the leader of a coup and a traitor. 18 months ago, then-President Mohammed Morsi appointed Abdel Fattah al-Sisi commander of the Egyptian armed forces. Less than a year later, he played a key role in the Islamist leader's downfall.
The will of the Egyptian people alone is what governs us. We respect it, we protect it, with all objectivity, fairness, honour, and without deceit. Those who think they can stand against or repel this will, or counter it with violence, are wrong.
Should al-Sisi run for office, he will likely receive the full support of the current military-backed interim government, and he won't face much competition. The Muslim Brotherhood has been banned and declared a terrorist group by the country's leaders. But an al-Sisi presidency would not only anger Islamists in the country. Some analysts are concerned he doesn't have the experience needed to dig Egypt out of its current hole.
We know Sisi as a military man, not
a man who knows how to run the economic situation. So, and the people of Egypt, in 2 years, they removed 2 presidents. So they are able to remove anyone in the future.
AL-SISI's sharp rise to the top and the support he receives from the country's powerful military has also spread worries of a return to the authoritarian rule seen for 3 decades under Hosni Mubarak. Egypt has had 6 governments in 3 years since that regime's downfall.
With the registration deadline for would-be presidential candidates in Algeria drawing closer, former Prime Minister Ali Benflis threw his hat into the ring on Tuesday ahead of the midnight cut-off. Now, he's one of 6 hopefuls and is seen as ailing leader Abdelaziz Bouteflika's main rival in the April vote. Bouteflika officially entered his name for a 4th-term bid on Monday. The prospect, though, of the 77-year-old's candidacy sparked protests, and dozens of other candidates have pulled out of the race, with some alleging that the upcoming polls are being rigged in Bouteflika's favour. A Tunisian man who was condemned to 7.5 years in jail for posting caricatures of the Prophet Mohammed on his Facebook page has been freed. 29-year-old Jaber Mejri was imprisoned on charges of offending public decency in 2012. The judgment sparked fierce criticism from human rights groups and secular opposition groups suspicious of the rise of political Islam. Well, Mejri received a presidential pardon 2 weeks ago and is tonight back at home. Morocco's king's wrapping up a 3-day visit to Guinea in the latest stop on his tour of sub-Saharan Africa. Having already spent time in Mali and Ivory Coast, Mohammed VI headed to Conakry in the hope of cementing closer bilateral ties there. No time is wasted. He and President Alpha Condé chaired the signing of 21 agreements, including deals on banking, transport and finance. Well, tomorrow the king moves on to Gabon for the final leg of his visit. The Congolese Gender and Families Ministers called on women to step up and play their part in bringing about reconciliation in African conflict zones. Genevieve Inagosi spoke at the 2nd French-speaking Women's Forum in Democratic Republic of Congo. The 2-day event wrapped up in Kinshasa today after top guests like Central African President Catherine Samba Panza and Congolese President Joseph Kabila helped discuss the role women have to play in bringing about peace in times of crisis. This year's event focused on the visibility of women in development. One of the issues raised was the importance of education for girls. Well, our correspondent sent us this report from Goma in eastern DRC.
In Goma, the streets are once again packed with school children. A year and a half ago, the M23 rebels were shelling this city in eastern Congo. Now, most of the children are back at school. In this classroom, there are as many boys as there are girls. But overall, in Congo, there are fewer girls in school. Asina is 14 and is aware of this. Every afternoon, this junior reporter gets her recorder out. Today, she's interviewing a poor family outside Goma. For a whole year, this mother was unable to pay for the school fees.
She told me that her daughter used to go to school but stopped going because of high fees. But now the mother says she must go back to school.
Schools are often expensive in Congo, but for this mother, education is a priority.
If she studies, her daughter can become a minister or the president or someone important in the town. She says that the money she manages to make, she gives it to the school so her daughter can study.
Asina's report is then broadcast in this local radio. Today's debate is on the education of Congolese girls.
Why is it particularly important for girls to go to school?
Only 57% of girls sign up to go to school in the first year.
The problem is not only financial, but cultural.
In our culture, they used to say girls stay in the kitchen. They must get married and not go to school. We, as young reporters, are here to change these traditions.
Enrollment is up by 30% this year, but one challenge remains.
It's important that girls stay at school because many start there, but they don't stay on until university.
University is where these junior reporters are all determined to go.
Well, that wraps up Africa News from me for today. Stay with us though, a short break, more news and headlines coming up. Take care.